Noel Nation, welcome to the Renegade Rundown number 12. Got my guy with me, Kelvin Hunt, owner operator over at chopchat.com. One of the most knowledgeable guys in the game when it comes to Florida State football, recruiting, all that good stuff. Make sure you go there at chopchat.com, check him out. He also has a podcast right here on YouTube, so make sure you go check that out as well. Let the folks know what your channel's called again.
Yeah, it's built for playmakers, man. Just like the FSU offense, easy to
Okay, I
remember.
knew that was the podcast name. I just wasn't sure if that was actually what the channel's name was. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
built for playmakers.
Yep.
Man, we all knew it. We were looking forward. I think the last time I talked to you, it might have been the week of Clemson or the week before. We get that big win at Clemson. Here we are. We finally get to this homestand. Everybody's been looking forward. Got that bye week. Get a little health going, and bang, we welcome Syracuse last week in just an absolute demolition of Syracuse. We still didn't see that complete full four-quarter game. We did from the defense. The offense stalled out in the second quarter, but besides that, man, it was one hell of a performance by our Noles, 41-3. So much stuff we're going to talk about, I'm sure. But what'd you think, man? What stuck out to you in that win?
Yeah, man, it went pretty much how I expected. I recorded a piece last week looking at Syracuse's offense based on how we match up with them, and the title I put was "Major Beatdown?" ? Knew they were pretty limited, similar to Virginia Tech, really in a lot of respects, and defense took care of them. So I didn't really have any worries as far as that goes. My questions have kind of been towards the offense, and like you said, stalled out. I called them sloppy. A lot of people disagree with that, but when I say sloppy, I'm talking about just lack of execution. Multiple drop passes, failing to take advantage of scoring opportunities. When you're inside the 10-yard line against an average team, you kind of expect to convert there. So I'm just holding them to a standard as far as when you're playing against a team of equal or better talent. You got to capitalize on those situations. So, but overall, can't really complain with 41-3, man. Got a ton of guys, some experience on both sides of the ball. Got out of there healthy, from what I can tell, and peaking at the right time. Got a big game, box office boys again.
Yes,
Saturday
sir.
night with Duke coming to town, and gonna get ready to take care of business once again, in my opinion. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get into it though.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. That Duke matchup, it's a big one. But yeah, as far as the Syracuse game, yeah, that second quarter, you're absolutely right. And it's not like it's just us. Like, if you watch the game, Mike Norvell was livid. There's nobody that was more upset with how that kind of second quarter went and the offense stalling out and those little plays, not scoring in the red zone. We were on a streak where we were, I believe, 17 for 17, or it might have climbed up towards 20, where we had scored. We were 100% in the red zone. So that first time we didn't make it, that was the first time all year. And then to turn around and it happens again. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's the guys relaxed, or it was just kind of one of those things where this went wrong, that went wrong, and it's just kind of ended up happening. But the fact they didn't let it bother them and they picked right off, and handle business was the most important thing. And you hit on another big thing: health. We had just about everybody back for this game. Rob Scott didn't have his best game, but he was out there working back into the rotation. That was huge to see. Our guy Conrad Hussey had another big game back there. The running game kept going. That didn't relapse, so we kept seeing the running game going, even though it looked a little choppy there at the beginning. It seemed like Trey Benson was tiptoeing again, but then, it just seems like every check mark is checked off. As far as things we were worried about, the running game was fixed. The defense, that's the big thing we got to talk about. That defensive effort to hold them to 3 points for the second year in a row, and just kind of the way they did it. We talked about it. They had our little lapses in the second quarter. We won't go deep into it. The offense just broke down for a couple of drives. It is what it is. But the defense played stout all day long, gave up just a field goal. And you talked a little bit about Syracuse's offense. Look, they were down a couple wide receivers. We knew it going into the game. We needed to see domination, and that's what we saw. We pretty much held Syracuse to their least output output of the entire year. When you look at all the stats across the board, I believe we had them for their lowest per rush attempt, lowest everything, and definitely the least amount of points they've scored all year. So I was super happy with that defense, and it just seems like the defensive line is 100% healthy. Knock on wood. Doesn't seem like last year how we had guys dinged up all over the place. It seems like, running through that hockey style, substitution method versus the spot substitution method has paid dividends as we get into the kind of the second third of the season here. But yeah, that defense, you couldn't be happier with it going forward. And Duke's on the horizon. I'm sure that's what we'll spend most of our time talking about. The big question on everybody's mind is Riley Leonard going to play?
I have my doubts, man. I had a similar injury my sophomore year in college. I was on second base. I played baseball. Coming around third, coaches waving me on. I hit third wide open. Round third, I get about a third of the way down. He throws up the brakes, and I go to stop, and my ankle just rolls. I mean, it rolls all the way over. And I get back to the base or whatever, score, come back in the dugout, go back into the outfield, and I can feel my damn heartbeat of my ankle just. And it's probably like the sixth inning. And by the time the game's over, I was just like him. I could barely walk. And it took like 3 or 4 weeks. Now, granted, this is a long time ago. This is 2 decades ago. But my ankle was as black as the background on this YouTube video right here. And I tried to come back too early because I had some scouts coming to watch me play. And took like 3 Advil or Aleve, I should say, before a doubleheader. Gutted it out, wound up messing it up worse, wound up missing another almost month. And, so here's what Duke has to consider. Do you bring him back less than 100% when they're already double-digit underdogs, when they don't have any losses in the ACC? They still have Carolina and Louisville to play. Is even more valuable in those 2 games where they probably have a better shot at winning, at least one of them? Or do you bring him back Friday night on the road? He ain't played in 2 weeks. He's less than 100%. I don't think he's going to play. They would be crazy to send him out there because they easily could go from 0 or 1 loss in the conference after this week to 3 in a hurry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. When you're looking at it logically, if you're in that position, you look at who you're playing the rest of the year. Like you said, the defensive lines you're going to face the rest of the year. You look at what Florida State's been doing the past couple of weeks, just absolutely getting after passers. And you got a guy coming back from those ankle injuries. And like you said, you went through it. Even if you think you're pretty good, you're up to 80, 90%. All it takes is one tiny little setback, and bam, you're back to square one. And like you said, he could end up, needing a minimum another 3 weeks, and then bam, your season's over with. I think that would be the way to go. I believe Mike Norvell will probably prepare for the backup and for Riley Leonard, regardless. And they look good without Riley Leonard this week, and their defense is pretty good. They're going to be one of the better defenses we played this year. They obviously won't be necessarily the most talented, but they're extremely – what's the word I'm looking for? They're extremely well coached. They follow their assignments, and they do have some nasty corners. So with our wide receivers, I don't know how much that means, but what do you think about their defense and the challenge it'll show? You think they can cause some problems from Norvell in the offense?
Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about this later on in the week too, but I mean, they're well coached, but there's a difference of talent compared to them and Clemson as far as in the trenches, linebacker, DBs. I think what you'll see a lot of is, and I didn't watch all of it. Oh, actually, let me stop lying. I didn't watch any of the NC State game live. I watched a few clips, and I think they'll be probably make FSU execute down the field mode. Try to play too high, not let guys get behind them. See if FSU can execute 8, 9, 10 play drives, and hope that execute will have a drop or a false start or something to get them behind the chains, and then maybe bring pressure on third down. You saw that with Notre Dame. Notre Dame had like 12 penalties for 70 or 80 yards. I mean, it was on the road too, so you had a lot of false starts and things like that to kind of get them behind the chains, and then they brought some pressure. That's a smart approach. If I were them, that's the approach I would take. We've seen FSU execute. We've seen them not execute. So it just depends on which FSU offense shows up.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about kind of the talent level and the difference between us and Duke. Because really, when we're looking at Duke, it's kind of like looking in the mirror. I mean, they've got obviously Mike Elko there, so it doesn't really matter who the coordinator is. It's that Mike Elko off defense, the same kind of defense, really that Adam Fuller wants to run. It's that same tree, if you will, of defenses, that 4-2-5. And when you look at the offense, Mike Elko being around Norvell, I'm not extremely familiar. I can't even tell you the guy's name, the coordinator right now offhand, but I know it's also, an offense very similar to what Norvell wants to do with us. It's really a lot like looking in the mirror, and the difference should be in just the quality of player. Our Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson should be able to eat against whoever their corners are, and vice versa. Our defensive line should be able to get it done against the offensive line. But another thing you said is execute. We've seen the guys not execute. We've seen them execute. It's been more, a whole half, of just kicking ass to where they've really taken off and taken the lead, or 3 quarters against Syracuse. We haven't had a game where we look like crap, on either side of the ball for a majority of the game. There hasn't been anything like that. But with a team like Duke, they're going to be coached up. They're going to execute well, and you can't beat yourself. You can't kick yourself in the butt. You can't be acting like a Miami Hurricane, not kneeling when you need to kneel, and all this stuff. Tell me, did you see this Flo guy talking about Keon Coleman on Twitter?
I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna address that later. I got something for that one. Yeah, I got
something lined up just for him on that.
Yeah, that's.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah. I see Smooth Criminal had a comment. Says good thing about this no team, they always have an answer against their opponents. Yeah, that's another part. So I think you mentioned that Adam Fuller kind of coached with Elko, so he's familiar with that, and then the guy that is on offense for Duke, Mike, coached with. So and that's another thing, man. I mean, when it goes into just game planning, I mean, there's not many coaches better than Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins as far as just developing game plans and executing. Well, not executing, but hoping that the players execute. And when the players execute, I mean, it's like poetry in motion. It's like guys just running wide open, holes. It's like a video game almost. When the guys execute, so that's the key to it. But I think one thing that I like though that we saw from the offense this past weekend was Jordan Travis. I mean, yeah, he went to Coleman, a gazillion times, but I mean, he caught the ball like 90% of the time. We started to see him, check down a little bit. Check down to Trey Benson. Unfortunately, Trey Benson dropped the ball 3 times.
Yeah,
Jaheim, dropped 1 or 2. So we're seeing Jordan start to kind of distribute the ball a little bit. We saw him hit Destiny Hill on a couple, underneath routes and things like that. So I think, man, they're not far away. Also, I said during the Syracuse game that Syracuse coming into that game were among the top teams in the nation as far as tackles for a loss, and they only had, I think it was 4 against FSU. 2 of those were sacks, and those were kind of covered sacks where Jordan just held the ball forever. And I said
they averaging like 12 a game or something. Crazy like that?
It's like 8, I think it is 8 a game. But it was like there were times where Jordan just dropped back and had all day long to throw the ball. And I said it on Twitter. I was like, man, he's got all day to throw the ball. And then Mike said today in his presser that the offensive line only had a handful of misassignments as far as what they grade on or whatever. So that's what you want to see. And I think that's why they were able to start running the ball too. Because Syracuse coming to that game was allowing 3.04 yards per carry. And, you saw Benson had 74, Toafili had almost 100. Now, some of that could have been, their defense was on the field like the entire game, and they were probably gassed late in the game. But, you didn't see a lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage for Syracuse. That's a real good sign. And that's something that Duke doesn't do well. Duke only has I think they have something like 36 tackles for a loss or something like that. And granted, they haven't really played a strong schedule either. So they got Clemson in the first game, and Klubnik's first start on the road, and all that. And he, first new offense. And so you got that going on. And you talk about not beating yourself. Clemson absolutely beat themselves with 3 turnovers, 2 of them basically getting ready to score a touchdown, and they turned the ball over. That's 14 points. They missed 2 field goals. That's 6 points. That's 20 points right there. Then they throw an interception, and Duke gets the ball in midfield and scores a touchdown on that. That's the definition of beating yourself, So if they play that game again, I would take Clemson all day, every day. So, yeah, man, you said it. You said it, man. It's not not beating yourself and executing pretty much. But that's against every team, though.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt, and that's kind of the difference when you got that experience. Year 4 of Norvell, you said it also about how good he is about getting his playmakers the ball and having the right guys throughout the lineup, knowing when to push these buttons. He's also, I think he's extremely methodical about kind of how he handles the load distribution and people get upset about snaps, but he has the team. Everything he's doing is with a mind of having this team being its absolute best at the end of the year. When it comes time for that ACC championship and that playoff, that's what he's got his mind on. So if Johnny Wilson needs to sit, against Syracuse, I guarantee you Johnny Wilson probably could have played if it came down to it. Had it been ACC championship week, he probably would have played. But the way they're working Akeem Dent back, the way they're handling snaps, they're doing it all with the mind of, being the best at that end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, you also talked about the wide receivers. I was so happy to see Jaheim Bell get it going. Jordan Travis missed him on that one play early. And then, like you said, I was so upset for Jaheim on that one because, I'm glad he ended up getting more catches later. But that would have been a beautiful play. He was wide open.
Yeah, that would have been 6. And I think I in real time, I remember I was like, how in the world did he miss him that badly? But in that other long play that Jaheim had, you can tell, he kind of broke away, but you can tell he's not 100%. And I think that may have been a little bit of it where Jordan was expecting him to, kind of be a little bit further along as far as, his speed, and just overthrew him. Because I was like, how in the world did you overthrow him that badly? But then when I saw that other play, I was like, yeah, he's not 100%. So yeah, man, it's crazy. But going back to the snap counts, I think the guys at 247 might have been Sanoon put it out. I was amazed at how low the snap counts were for the defensive line. I don't think any guy had over 30, 35 snaps. That's crazy, and they did that last game, this game. And so by the time, like you said, by the time they play the Miamis and Floridas, these guys are going to be, fresh in Florida out there going life and death with South Carolina, and these guys are going to be beat all up. Look at Miami. Those guys got beat up the other night, and they're going to get beat up again this coming week against Clemson. Van Dyke may not even play. So, yeah, they're going to be fresh and peaking at the right time, man. Absolutely. It's I always said, ever since like a year or two ago, Norvell seems to have plan A, B, C, and D. And
absolutely,
he be on it, man, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time. I believe 2015 since we started 6-0. We got bowl eligibility at the earliest possible time. Firing on all cylinders. Hopefully we get Johnny back for this game. Can't say enough about what Mike Norvell's done in his short time. And, you kind of look across the country and, everybody was all on Mel Tucker. Well, Mel Tucker, he's gone. He's fired, If it wasn't going to be whatever happened with that girlfriend or whatever, the Brenda lady's name was. If it wasn't that, he was going to get fired for his stuff on the field anyways. That Michigan State team is absolutely terrible. But you look over the same thing over at Baylor. Dave Aranda seemed like he was, the hot new thing. And I was trying to explain this to somebody on Twitter, which far be it from anybody to get anything across on, well, X, I guess you would call it nowadays, that you see a lot of coaches. Some coaches have success year one. But it's like 99% of the time, if you're able to win a bunch of games in year one, it means that either you walked into a great culture, you're lucky you walked into a great culture, everything was there, or you sacrificed on something. You let a guy get away with, something that wasn't, you deemed incorrect to your culture. To be able to keep a team together without doing what Dion did and just bringing in a whole entire new team, it's just rare that it happens. Either that or maybe you sacrifice defense. It's like, the guy over there at UFC, he was great right out the gate, but it's like if he's got the same team as he had year one, it's just what it is. When you look at Norvell, you reap what you sow. And they did a whole bunch of sowing, and all those different off-season programs, all the stuff about family, as much as you get tired of hearing about it, and the different activities they do, and breaking down into prayer before and after every practice in their position units, and just really being a family. That stuff shows out on the field, and I mean they do it for each other. And I think one thing was super emblematic of that was that play, and we saw the same thing when Kalen DeLoach had that big-ass hit and knocked down the Clemson quarterback, takes it, forced fumble to the house. Well, this game on that punt return, that entire special team unit ends up around Keon Coleman, and you just see a mass of 10, maybe 9 or 10 Florida State Seminoles and Garnet jerseys just all together in lockstep, all in the same exact stride, running towards that end zone. And just that purpose of all 11 people, all 22, all 85, all 105, if you want to go down for the walk-ins, everybody pointed towards that specific goal. And that's part of the reason I'm not worried about any kind of letdown for Duke. We got them at home. This is our last game at home before we hit the road again. And man, I hope we hand it to them, because after this Duke game, you said it earlier. I mean, after Duke, it's pretty much Miami and Florida. After that, that's pretty much, we got Pitt, who we can't take laying down, because man, we could talk about the ACC for a minute. Louisville goes to Pitt and gets blasted. Like, what the hell? What's going on, Kelvin? Tell me, like, how is that possible? How do you go and beat Notre Dame and then go get blasted by Pitt, who was like, I don't even know if they won a game yet this year.
That was crazy. I think Pitt, that was their second win in a year. I think I tweeted it. I was watching the Miami game, and I looked, and it was like Pitt was up 10 points with the start of the fourth quarter, and I tweeted it. I was like, Pitt is up 10 points against Louisville. I was like, and they wound up pulling away from them, like winning by more than 14, 2 touchdowns, I think it was. And Jerkovich wasn't even a quarterback. There was talk about him moving a tight end or something, but I think they didn't allow him to move. But he didn't. I don't think he was a quarterback, so I don't even know who the quarterback was. But I think that kind of says more. It kind of says more about what Louisville isn't than what they are. Because Notre Dame, Notre Dame's a good team, but Notre Dame's not. They're not an elite team.
Makes you think.
They just beat USC, but we knew USC was flawed. We knew their defense was trash. So in Louisville's, they went life and death with NC State on a Thursday night. Granted, it was a Thursday night. So it's like, how good are they? We'll see. They still got to play. They got to play Carolina? Was it Duke? And do they play Carolina? I can't remember. They got
they don't play.
They got a tough.
They don't play North Carolina.
They Miami. They play Miami, right?
Miami, yeah. All three of us play Miami.
Yeah. So they still got two more tough teams, coming up. So they could just fall off, like my guy Joe Budden would say, fall off like Big Mac toppings. Like.
Well, you lose to Pitt, you can lose to anybody. So I guess it don't really matter who's on the schedule, because Pitt's their last place. So,
we saw Virginia Tech handle them. But again, that was with Jerkovich at quarterback. I don't know. The guy they got back there might have just change the game. But then the question is, well, if he was that good, why wouldn't he start with?
Exactly. Let's hope that's not the case because we do still have Pitt on the schedule. I was hoping to just destroy them. I think we got to go to Pitt, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not worried about
But
that.
yeah, man, Notre Dame, it just, and you mentioned USC because what they went out there and did to USC, it makes me – so I was questioning Louisville. Okay, then they go do what they do to Notre Dame, and I'm like, all right, Louisville's for real. Well, then okay, so they lost to Pitt, so whatever. Just throw Louisville back in the I'll believe it when I see it pile. But then Notre Dame goes and waxes USC. So, I mean, is the Pac-12 is that we all, pretty much everybody's kind of joined hands and said, okay, the Pac-12 is probably the best conference in college football this year. Who knows? Maybe do we need to just see them play a couple more ACC teams? Maybe all that's a bunch of BS. Maybe none of them teams can really compete with the Florida States and the Georgias of the world.
I think Oregon and Washington are legit. I was never sold on USC before the season. No. Before the season, there was a stat there. There's been one team every year, like 19 out of the last 20 years, that started the season ranked top 10 and finished unranked. And of all the teams that were listed, I picked USC. I was like, because they have no defense. I mean, they can score, but there's going to be a game or two. It always happens. There's going to be a game or two that, the offense just does not click. They turn the ball over 3 times or whatever. And if you don't have a defense, man, the other team's going to take advantage, and that's going to cost you. And you saw that, multiple turnovers against Notre Dame. There you go. But I think Oregon and Washington I think they're legit. I mean, Oregon should have won that game. I was real time. I was like, what's Lanning doing? Not punting, but then seeing how quickly they scored from midfield, I still think you got to punt that ball. But especially since they have no timeouts. But damn, they went like 55, 60 yards in 2 plays. So it's like maybe he was thinking like, man, if I give them that ball back, there's a good chance they're going to score. So they may have to play each other again. So we'll see.
Yeah, I liked Oregon to win that game going away, to be honest. But yeah, Washington, they showed up. Looking at it, those 2 teams look real. I 100% agree, but we're going to find out. I think they all pretty much play each other. So they'll all play each other, and whoever ends up, I guess we'll probably end up with a couple 1-loss teams, maybe one undefeated, and then we'll get that Pac-12 championship. Over in the Big Ten, it's pretty much you got your 3. Everybody knew it coming in. You got the 3 in the one division, Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. It's just about who's going to survive that thing. Like, it's crazy. Michigan's just like Georgia. Like, they haven't played anybody, but they look like the best team in the country. So it's like if you just went off looks, I'd say like Michigan number 1, FSU number 2, Georgia number 3, like something like that in that vein, just off of looks. But Michigan hasn't played anybody. If you went by resume, I say it's us all day. If you're going to give, give the benefit of the doubt, and Georgia has the best players and everything, I'm okay with Georgia being number 1 too. But it's just Michigan. They look it. Well, what do you think about the Big Ten? Which one of those 3 you think takes it home?
Well, Ohio State and Penn State played this weekend, right? I think.
Ooh, I hope so.
Yeah, they played this weekend, so that's going to eliminate somebody. And Ohio State hadn't looked the best. When looking at Michigan, man, I look at Michigan kind of how I did when we had to play them in the Orange Bowl in 2016. Everybody was talking about how great their defense was, and all this and what they were going to do. And I went and looked at their schedule just like this year, and I was like, they haven't played anybody with an offense that's similar to what FSU had that year. And FSU had the number. Jimbo them had with Dalvin Cook had the number like 7 offense nationally, I think, when you looked at advanced metrics, right? And you saw FSU go out there and put it on them, put 30, 33, 34 points on them, and nobody had really done that all year. And I think that's going to be the same thing this year. They're good, but you got to play somebody. I mean, they're not tested. So. And again, they don't really play anyone. So we'll see whenever they play. I'm not sure they got to play Ohio State and whoever else they go through at the end of the year. But if we have to face them in the playoffs or something like that, I mean, They don't scare me.
Oh, that'd be a great matchup for us.
Yeah.
If we had to pick a matchup of somebody to play in the playoffs, as good as they've looked with what they've got at quarterback, not being that mobile, and like you said,
Right.
their kind of style of defense, I would
That's
absolutely love that matchup.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's why I like, going back to the ACC with Miami. I said before the season, I was like, I said it on Twitter the other night. I love before the UNC game. I love how we match up with them because we played mobile quarterbacks all year, right? And so I mean, you can't just rush, wide open back there. But you saw that with UNC. They just pinned their ears back when they got up, 2 scores and beat TVD to death. And that's pretty much what's going to happen. That's what happened in 2021. That's what happened last year. That's what's going to happen this year if he's back there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we play anybody with a statue back there, hey.
That's it, man. That's it. If we get somebody we can tee off on, Adam Fuller gonna get after them boys.
Not only that, I mean, and then when you look at the stats alone, it says, we're not excellent against the run, but all of that's calculated by looking at all the quarterback rushing numbers and all that stuff. But if you just look at the traditional run games, nobody's really just straight up just ran it down our throat. No. I mean, look at Clemson.
Same as us in Georgia.
Yep. Yeah, look at Clemson.
It's running quarterbacks.
Yeah, Clemson with Shipley. Shipley had 61 yards. Aside from that one run by Maffa, which the only reason he got that was because Kevin Knowles didn't come down and fill the gap. He was there to make the tackle. He just chose not to tackle, and he got that long run. But aside from that, nobody has straight up just ran the ball on FSU traditionally, and that's everybody's talking about Duke's offense or whatever. They're not going to be able to just straight up run it like that. So even if Leonard was 100%, you got to count for him. So he changes things if he's healthy. But if you just don't have that aspect and they got to run it traditionally, like Shannon Sharp says,
like a damn dough and heat or something. But yeah, man, there's no way. The thing about Leonard is even if he does play, that doesn't mean he's healthy. He's still not going to be able to run because he is pretty athletic and he will run his butt off for Duke to get yards and convert first downs. But with that ankle injury, if he's in his first game back, if it's going to be FSU, he's going to be back there stuck in the mud. And yeah, teams have not been able to run. Like you said, teams like this guy last week, he ran, I think he had 19 carries for a little over 100 yards, but they get yards between the 20s, but situationally, like if it's 3rd and 3 and they need 3 yards, they're not getting it, but they may pop a run here or pop a run there, and you may end up with a decent little yard total at the end. But nobody has been able to line up situationally and run it on us, and damn sure not in the red zone. We really are one of the top. When you look at the stats, we are one of the better defenses in the nation when it gets down in that red area. And that's just more, I think, of a, it just goes to show who we've played, and it's starting to level out. You're seeing us shoot up all the rankings now that we're playing lesser teams. It's unfortunate that's how it works. But these advanced metrics, say what you want, they don't do great for strength of schedule because every year, the first month or when we play our tough games, it seems like we're way low. And then after we go on a run of these lesser teams or more, down to earth, top 60 instead of top 20 teams, we shoot up. Guys, if you have any questions, get your questions in. We got one right here from Brian Walters. It's a pretty good one here. Y'all ever wonder why we rarely ever find out that our offensive linemen are hurt, injured till the next day or so? They never seem to fall down on the field during the game, so we know right then and there. Man, Mike Norvell and the staff, that's by design. And, it's aggravating as somebody that covers it and, kind of wants to know. And, the better you do, I'm sure Kelvin has some great hookups. Guys like us, we tend to find out some things, like exactly what Robert Scott's injury is. But the staff does not let it out. And if anybody likes us finds out, we're not allowed to say it. And I'm sure they probably do have conversations like that if you can get off the field, without making a big deal of it. I also say we've been lucky that, knock on wood, we just haven't had those major injuries to linemen to where it's been to the fact of them, having to be helped off in that situation, which is, just a great sign of us being able to rotate and, load management and all that. And also luck. You got to have injury luck.
Yeah, for sure. And these guys are playing hurt, man. I mean, when you're in the trenches, you got some type of bruise or some type of strain. I mean, those guys just tough as hell. That's partly why you you don't see those guys come off the field like that. Those guys just tough as hell, man. But yeah, like you said, I think the snap count, the highest I saw was I think it was 38 for the offensive lineman the other day. That was the highest number. There was three of them that must have been playing together. I know it was Maurice Smith. I can't remember the other two. I think that was the largest number. So yeah, that's pretty good there.
Darius has been getting a lot of snaps too. What was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. But yeah, the offensive line, man, they've been rotating. It's such a breath of fresh air to just have depth almost across the board. Not so much at the safety position. But you're starting to build it, man. Conrad Hussey, he had the little boneheaded play, but besides that, he played a ton of snaps. I'm happy to see that he's really been growing the last couple games. You mentioned Destin Hill. We had a ton of freshmen out there making plays. How about Hakeem Williams with that first touchdown, man? That was freaking awesome. Like, you saw that athleticism all on a flash when he flattened out and hauled ass down the field.
Yeah, buddy, like he got shot out of a cannon.
Yes,
I remember. The first thing that impressed me was it was just an all hands. It was just all hands catch. He had to kind of extend for it, and it was like it's like he snatched that bad boy down, and within like 3 yards, it was like he was wide open. And I remember thinking like, oh, he gonna score. And then the other guy kind of, he just weaved, and I was, man, your future's bright, boy. Woo, wait, think about it. You got him as a freshman. You got Destin Hill as a freshman. You got all these other guys that are, planning to come this year. You still have another year with Kentron, Darian Williamson. If all these guys stay, man, they got some skill. They got some talent, man. It's gonna be nasty for sure.
Yeah, so I saw a comment asking about Johnny Wilson's status. From what I heard, he was practicing, working back into practice. I don't know if he's a full go yet. I'm expecting. I think he'll play this Saturday, but we'll see. I'm not sure if Kellen's heard anything else. But that's where I'm at on Johnny, and then we can get this other question from Grill Master if you want.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he'll play or not. I expect him to. If he doesn't, then I think they feel like they're confident enough that they can win without him. It's not worth running him out there against somebody like that. So I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it too much if he doesn't play.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. If he's not out there, it's not the end of the world, but he's very much so. It could possibly be this week. It could be the week after, but yeah, that's where we're at on that one. And I'm sure just if we hear anything, we'll let you know as soon as we possibly can. Grillmaster with the question: do you think the rotational system they have with the offensive line and the defensive line is attractive to prospects? You want to take that one first?
Yeah. I think so, because when you hear guys like Fabian or Josh Farmer and guys like that, what they want to be able to do is they want to be able to go 100% for the 30 or 40 plays that are out there, right? That gives them an opportunity to really focus, put their best out there, and put their best on tape, right? So if you out there and you see a guy, he may be only out there 20 some snaps, but if he's out there and in every play he's just whipping the guy in front of him, that's what you want to see. Unlike whenever use an example, you had Gilbert Edmond, who came from South Carolina last year. Gilbert Edmonds played over 600 snaps as a defensive end last year. Now, how many of those reps do you think were quality because he was gassed, right? So if you're able to come in there, give your all for 10, 12 snaps, get a breather, give another 10, 12, get a breather. Yeah. Well, and also most injuries occur when you're fatigued, because you don't use the same practice habits that you practice, right? You get lazy, you get tired, and that's when the injuries happen, man. Or especially with younger guys, when younger guys get in there and they get tired, and somebody else just whips them a certain way, that's how injuries happen. So yeah, I think it's attractive for sure.
Yeah, you're 100%. You're singing, preaching to the choir over there, man. I loved every word you said. You're absolutely right. And you can tell them, look, if you don't believe me, go look at how many snaps so-and-so that just went, third overall in the draft took last year. You go check out the year before that, the year before that, because that's kind of where this thing came from. And, they've been wanting to get here. They've been working towards getting to this point, and now they're finally there. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's some question between the kind of complete hockey style substitution method versus the spot substitution method, like I mentioned earlier. You can have that conversation. There's sometimes, that it might make call for it, like in the, fourth quarter, if you're in, the final drive of the game, you may want to just, no matter what, where you are on the rotation, get your best guys out there. But absolutely, you don't want these guys taking more than 30, 40 snaps a game. 40 is pushing it. 20, 30 snaps a game, and they're fresh. And you really see it. Like we've seen giant growth from guys like Malcolm Ray and Joshua Farmer versus when they were forced into action last year and playing all those snaps. A guy like McClendon that was here last year and it was pretty much out there for every snap of end all year long because we were thin at end. So being able to have them options, it's just everybody's fresh and you're getting that NASCAR pass rush every single time. And it's something that very few teams in the country are able to do. So the fact that we're able to do that, absolutely, that's a giant a recruiting thing. And obviously you got Jermaine Johnson going the first round last year, and we'll probably end up having 10 guys, upwards of 10 guys go in the draft this year. So recruiting is going to take a big jump here in the next few years for sure.
Yeah. Man, I'm glad you mentioned Jermaine Johnson, especially since he's coming this weekend to the Duke game. But what was even more impressive with him was, we had no depth in 2021, and that cat was literally playing 60, 65, 70 snaps a game and was out there giving it to cats. Like, man, I mean, that was one of the all-time great seasons, man. That dude was unreal to be able to play at that level for that many snaps. And not only that, teams knew he was, Keir Thomas, definitely did his thing on the other side, but they knew, Jermaine Johnson was going to be somebody they got to prepare for. And he still produced that at that level. Hat tip to that dude, man. Glad to see he still shows love to the program the way he does, man. That's so awesome.
Yeah, he was that defense. It was unreal. Like you said it, man. He was on the field for the whole game, and it didn't matter. It's like you'd see him get gas for like a play or two, like in the middle of a drive, and then you'd see it. You'd see him just like, nope, they're getting close to the red zone, and he'd just line up. And the next thing you know, after you think he's totally gassed, already played 40, 50, 60 snaps into a game, and he's bam, forced fumble, strip sack.
Yeah, I mean,
ends the game right there. Like calls game, like right there, make those kind of plays.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Yep.
Now he's doing it for the Jets. The New York Football Jets.
Yeah, he balling, man. Yeah.
What's his name at Carolina is also killing it too. Let's see here. We got any more questions?
Brian Burns.
Yeah, Brian Burns. I love me some Brian Burns, dude. He's a hell of a pass rusher. He's not that same dude as Jermaine, but he's got that finesse pass rush game like nobody's business.
Yeah. Another thing too, I see T. Mary talks about Julian Armella being out there. Going back to the snap count, not only does that help recruiting, but it also helps just the sheer camaraderie with your teammates. Being on a team in college, whenever you were up big and you got to see guys that really didn't get to play that much go in there and get a hit or perform well or catch a touchdown or whatever. Man, that's big time because that kind of gives them motivation. Like, hey, okay, what I'm doing, I'm going in the right direction. I'm not that guy now, but I can see. When you look at Hakeem can see Keon and say, oh, that's what the future could look like if I continue to evolve, right? Julian Armella can look at Robert Scott or whomever and say, okay, that's what it looks like whenever it's my turn. I just got to be patient. But seeing Julian Armella get out there and throw that block so that Hakeem Williams could spring that touchdown, that's what it's all about, man. It's all about every guy doing their job on every single play and executing for sure.
Oh, here's a cool one. Girl Master with another great question. Who are your offensive and defensive MVPs halfway through the season? So offensive MVP, I'll be cheap. Keon Coleman, he's the offensive MVP for me the first half. The defensive MVP, that's a little bit tougher. Jared Verse is probably the most valuable player on that defense, even if he's only got 3 or 4 sacks now on the season. But that's a tough one. Let's see. You want to? I threw the offensive one out there. You want to throw a defensive one out there?
Man,
Who do you think?
Man, that is tough, man. It really is.
Linebackers have played out of their minds too. So I could say a Tatum Bethune.
I'm gonna go with Joshua Farmer.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Joshua Farmer. Joshua Farmer has been the best defensive lineman out there, defensive tackle, I should say. Verse has definitely been doing his thing, getting double and triple teamed. But that's an easy answer. So I'm gonna go with Farmer because that dude is blowing cats up. I mean, he's making plays in the run game. He's making plays and he's penetrating. Whereas last year, I love Robert Coop, Big Coop, salute to him, but he's more so just he's just a cogging up the middle type cat. Whereas Farmer is just he's engaging cats, throwing them off, and making plays in the backfield, and that's what you need for a dominant defense for sure.
No doubt. Talk about somebody who's taken the steps in the offense off season, taking the steps in the off season in the weight room, in the physical fitness, in your cardio, and taking that lower snap count and absolutely just exploding. I mean, his entire game is better, and he has absolutely been right up there as good as any of the rest of the tackles in there. And that's what's been so great. There's no drop-off between Fabian Lovett and Fisk, who you knew coming in were going to be all conference level guys. You knew Fisk had the crazy motor, and he was going to be going nonstop. Lovett is what Lovett does, and his thing is needing 20, 30 snaps. If you can keep Lovett 20, 30 snaps, he will get in there and snatch his guy. But to have Farmer come in and be maybe your best defensive tackle coming off the bench, that's amazing. If you're saying that in the preseason, you're like, okay, we may have a shot at winning the whole thing this year if that's what's going on.
I think Joshua Farmer kind of encapsulates everything about this program, right? When you think about it, when Norvell took over in December 2019, Joshua Farmer was the first high school guy he took a commitment from. He
was the first defensive guy.
Yeah, first guy total.
Okay.
He was.
I thought Rodemaker was the first, but I guess he was just the first quarterback.
No, I mean I'm talking about, and that was whenever the transition class. I'm talking about a full recruiting class.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, Farmer was 250 pounds, 3-star. I mean he had offers, but nobody was really beating his door down. And to see him come in, especially knowing his background and his situation, at home, and to see him, put in the work in the weight room, see Josh Storms, put into that guy, see Farmer, put into himself and invest, and see what's developed, over time. I mean, and it's almost like Farmer's development is kind of parallel with the development of the program since Norvell took over, right? You saw us just kind of just struggle. Then it's like, okay, progress. And now we're top, 4 in the nation. Farmer's one of the top defensive tackles in the ACC. Perfect kind of a description of what this program is all about and where it's going. Because, Farmer's going to be an NFL draft pick at some point.
Oh yeah. He's going to be that dude next year. Next year, he's going to be that dude. I wonder who's going to be, because Fisk is gone and Lovett's gone. Who's going to be next? Oh, well, we got Darryl Jackson coming next year. I totally forgot about that. So yeah, Farmer and Jackson, that's a pretty formidable pair up front right there. Another guy that's been unreal at defensive tackle is Malcolm Ray. Unreal. I mean, he just had a surgence in his 5th or 6th year now. And you said it with him being like one of Norvell's guys, but it's like you've got a little bit of everything. You've got some people left over from when Willie was here. You've got transition class. You've got the first portal class, the second portal class. It just seems like it's just, like you said, it's all come together. And for somebody, it's like no matter who you are, whether you're a transfer and you're playing it somewhere else right now and you're looking at Florida State, maybe wanting to come. If you're a senior in high school looking at Florida State and you want to come, no matter what your situation is, you can look at Florida State and see somebody doing exactly
Yeah,
what you want to do. So that's
that's
pretty amazing.
that's the thing. If you're a guy and you got 1 year left to play, and you're like, hey, I can go there and be a star. Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, on the offense, on defense, Jermaine Johnson. Do I want to go there and get developed? Josh Farmer, Robert Scott, Jordan Travis. I mean, all of the things that the teams used in the in the past as far as negative recruiting don't really have too much bite to them anymore, because they can look at them and say, oh, okay, cool, well, look at this. Oh, they said that. Oh, well, here's a way to disprove that. And I think that's why you're seeing them be able to do pretty much seemingly what they want as far as recruiting, whether it's the portal or high school.
Yeah, absolutely love it. We're sitting at number 6 right now, but I have a real great feeling they're gonna try to make a run at number 1. I don't know if they'll hit it. They may end up number 4. Who knows? They could end up jumping up to number 2 or 3, get slapped back down and back to number 5 or number 6 before it's all said and done with. But they're not done, and they're gonna make a run at that top position. I think we get Booker Pickett Jr. before it's said and done, and I'm ready to predict LJ McCray. I think we get him. I think we get LJ McCray. We got that final official visit. There's whispers about possibly an unofficial. If that happened and he showed up at the Duke game on the day he's going to commit, I mean, that'd be a dead giveaway, but we'll see what happens. I think with him committing this Saturday, it being that Duke game, and just, I don't know, we're kind of centered up in his edit. I think we're going to get McCray, and that's going to be a big-time boost because he's just jumped up in the rankings, too. I believe he got his 5th star on 3, if I'm not mistaken.
The good thing about the way they've done this class is they put in all the work. They've got almost every need filled, and now it's like, okay, you're not going to forget about the guys that are committed, but you got them, and it's like, okay, we need all of you guys to go get these 5 or 6 guys, right? So you see Charles Lester, KJ Bolden recruiting LJ McCray. You see Cromer recruiting LJ McCray, Jamari Howard, all these guys. That's kind of how you want to do it. You want to get everybody done, and it's like, okay, we're going well hunting now. We got all our needs met for the most part. These are 5 or 6 difference makers that can really put us over the top, and that's what they're doing. So it's amazing to see for sure.
No, there's no doubt about it. And another good point by Grillmaster. If you follow the channel, if you follow the site, I've been talking about Artavius Jones a lot, especially when we were talking a lot of recruiting earlier in the season. Artavius Jones, if you remember back a while ago, he was supposed to take a trip to Florida. And then, I think Miami didn't want him to come to Florida State, and he did anyways. I've been expecting us to get that flip. I thought a while back. I had heard that it possibly could happen like any day now, back about a month ago. But definitely looking to get. I'm not sure. I don't have anything 100%. I'm not as confident as I am about LJ right now, but definitely could see that one too. I would not be surprised one bit if Artavius slipped from Miami, and I would love to have him on board.
Miami might lose a few guys. If these L's start stacking up like we think.
Clemson, baby. I love
Clemson, FSU. I mean, and if TVD's out, hey man, it might get ugly like Bubba Sparks said, boy. For sure.
Man, they're gonna have all them guys wanting to go in the freaking trunk, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Don't they have somebody else too? They played Louisville. Yeah, they got Louisville too.
Yep.
So they got Louisville, Florida State, and Clemson left on the docket. Yeah. Same thing with UF, man. These UF folks, I mean, they got their chest pumped out, and it's funny because they're talking all that smack about, oh, well, you only beat Boston College by 2 and all this stuff. You should have blew out Clemson and all this stuff. Well, they're 5-2, but it's like they acted like they won the Super Bowl, beating 2-4 freaking South Carolina, who is god awful this year, and they have their schedule coming up now. So Florida has to go. They got Georgia. They go to Mizzou. They go to Georgia, LSU, and Mizzou, and they get Arkansas and somebody else at home. Us at home. Arkansas and us at home.
That sounds like a lot of L's. Sound like a lot of
Yeah.
L's.
They probably can take Arkansas at home, and then that Mizzou game on the road. That sounds. I mean, they could very easily go 1-4.
I wouldn't even sleep on Arkansas. Arkansas just played with Alabama, pretty tough. So
I don't know what the hell to think, dude. I don't know what to think about the SEC this year. As soon as I think I got them figured out, now Tennessee's winning. Like, I thought Tennessee was about to lose a bunch of games in a row, but there's not a good team over there. It's just like
it's all about
you're seeing these bad teams playing each other.
Yeah, it's all about the matchups too, though. It's like going back to earlier this year when everybody was talking, when Miami beat A&M, and I was like, man, listen, this about the matchups. A&M doesn't have, they didn't, couldn't get a pass rush. Their secondary is trash. And, what does Miami do? They want to go deep, whatever. Plus, they turn the ball over a crazy time. So that's all about the matchup. And that's why I feel confident in FSU, the rest of the way pretty much. As long as, like I said, as long as they don't beat themselves with just have a crazy weird game, multiple turnovers, man, I like them against the rest of the regular schedule for sure.
UF and UM losing more recruits after they lose to FSU, yeah, for sure. There's not a ton of guys on Miami I'd like to plunder, possibly Trader. Like we said Artavius Jones. But UF, I'd like to have one of them linebackers maybe. I could definitely go over UF. They got quite a few players I'd take on them.
I don't know who said that. There was some smoke for last week. Who was it? My guy Knowles Highlight, or somebody was saying that. God, who was saying that? Talking about one of Miami's wide receivers with Ohio
Chance
State.
Robinson.
Yeah, with Ohio State.
Yeah, there was smoke about that. I'm not sure I don't know if he's popped yet, but that's what everybody is saying. He's supposed to flip.
Yeah.
I'll laugh my ass off because he's one of their only blue chips, right?
They got the Carr guy here recently, the wide receiver that decommitted from Georgia.
That's right, not Carr.
So of course Miami cats are like, well, we just got him, so that's why he might leave. He ranked higher or whatever, but it's Miami fan logic for you. But I don't expect those guys to hold on to all of those guys that have with all the L's they have coming for sure.
No doubt. And it's like this is the first time in a long time that we've been able to, like, Norvell, we talking about how Norvell plans. Like, he was planning on winning all these games. Like, people got to understand, like, he's got some shit cooking when it comes to these recruits and stuff. And that's why I keep saying, like, he's going to make a run at number one. Do not be surprised if some guys that you just had no idea that Florida State was in on all of a sudden pop right there at the last minute on signing day. It's been a long time since we've had one of them. Jimbo used to have them back in 2012, 2013. All of a sudden on signing day, you get a couple extra 5 stars, and it's like, woo, that's a good feeling on National Signing Day, buddy.
Yeah, man. It'll be interesting to see, man, for sure. They got some ground to make up if they want to go number one. I think they could definitely be top 5 for sure with the guys they got left because they're all the top 150 guys. So we'll see. If things go the way we expect on the field, I think we'll get the majority of them.
I know you said you had to get out of here pretty quick around 8 Eastern. So you got anything you want to plug? Anything you want to let the people know about before we get out of here?
No, man. First, man, I just want to appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a good chat talking FSU football. Definitely.
Absolutely.
You can check us. Like I said, check us out on chopchat.com. We got fresh content there every day. We cover everything. Everything. In-depth analysis, recruiting, you name it, we cover it. Check us out on, like I said, Built for Playmakers on YouTube here. I'll have some content coming up here in the next 24 hours for sure. Looking at the Duke game and whatnot. So, yeah, man, to rock with us. And, again, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thank everybody for joining us that joined live. I hear you, Dre. Defensive MVP is Leonardo Green. To me, he's been the one constant corner for us. Everyone else has been up and down. Can't agree more. He's been an absolute force back there. Hey, it's been quiet. That's what you want out of your corners. Outside of your rare Jalen Ramsey that's going to make insane plays. Dude, he's just doing his job, and he's been shutting dudes down quietly over there on his side of the field. And even Cypress is really starting to come along. He's starting to be a little bit more physical out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Thank you guys out there, and we're Mondays and Thursdays at 7 Eastern. So check us out on Thursday at 7 Eastern, plus the Wednesday show at the Voice of College Football, plus the Saturday post game show also at the Voice of College Football, and we stream to here. Again, thanks, Kelvin, for joining us. You're more than welcome to come on anytime, and I totally agree, man. It was a pleasure having you on, and we will catch you guys next time.